This young lady, she's normally rocking with us on Thursday. She came in a little early this week because we had a very, very important topic to talk about. So welcome back again to the Sports Shop. Community impact creator and organizer and all things great.
That's right.
The firm, Pam Thompson-Smith. What's up, Pam?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Excited to be in a day early.
There you go.
But for a great cause. And, on this show, for the community impact, we highlight extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. But we also pause sometimes to talk about major subjects and things that are happening in our community. Mm-hmm. So we're excited to have Tina Brown on the show today. And she's an extraordinary woman. She's an influencer. And she's going to talk to us about domestic violence. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we highlight that. Welcome to the show, Tina.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Tell us briefly a little bit about you and why this is important to you.
Absolutely. I am Tina Moore. I'm from North Carolina. I've been married. Right now I'm divorced. I'm a mom of two amazing kids, the most two amazing kids I've ever met. But unfortunately, I found myself in a domestic violence relationship in the form of a marriage. And I found my way out. And I feel like it's my responsibility to educate, to empower, to inspire women and men and youth who find themselves in a situation they probably never thought they would be in, that I never thought this would happen to me syndrome, and help them maneuver their way through it and eventually out of it.
That's good. That's right. Well, tell us, let's dive in really quickly and break it down. What is domestic violence and what are the signs?
Domestic violence is also known as intimate partner violence. People think it's one thing. People think it's just one-sided. People hear domestic violence, they immediately think physical violence, black eyes, bruises, beating you half to death, bloody noses, and it's so much more than that. There are several different types of abuse, and I don't think a lot of people consider some of the things that they're enduring and some of the things that they're projecting on other people as being abuse. Unfortunately, there are so many people in unhealthy relationships and they don't realize it's unhealthy because it's what they saw. It's what they always do.
That's right.
The cop out is that's just who I am. But we need to learn the difference between what's healthy and what's unhealthy.
Oh, that's a good segue. What's healthy?
Healthy is being respected. Healthy is love that does not hurt. That's just the downright foundation of it. Love that does not hurt. It's not at the cost of someone else. It uplifts you, it encourages you, it gives you a voice, and it does not make you feel less than because you're using your voice.
Wow. So what are the signs? How do we know when we're in an unhealthy relationship or that this relationship is abusive? We're not being beat, but what's happening?
Right. Well, let me tell you a little bit about the different types of abuse. Of course, we understand what physical abuse looks like, feels like, sounds like, but some people may not understand that they are in a verbal or emotional abusive relationship. It's non-physical behavior, and it's usually done in private, and it's very calculated. Things like name calling. Some people think it's not, that's just what he does when he gets mad. That's just who he is. He has a temper. But name calling is never good. Never good. Blame. A lot of people who are in verbally abusive relationships, they get blamed on a regular basis for doing things they're not doing. They would never consider doing. Accusations. I know you cheating. I know you sleeping around. I know you're going behind my back and you're doing X, Y, and Z when you're not. Something I didn't know that I learned was gaslighting. It's when someone is discounting your emotions and making you wonder, am I the crazy one?
Right. Absolutely. They turn it around.
They flip it around. It's part of their personality. They do it on purpose. That's the part you don't get. They do it on purpose.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you're tuning in to the Community Impact segment, we have Tina Brown on, and we are talking about domestic violence. One thing I wanted to talk about, we have the guys in the studio. We always kind of gear it toward women. Is this something that the man, do women abuse men, and how often is that?
Absolutely. The thing is, a lot of men are embarrassed or ashamed to admit that their partner, their wife, is very verbally demeaning. Maybe a lot of men aren't getting hit, but they may be being talked down to in such a way that it's crushing the men's spirit. I have a friend, and she always ends up building up men in every relationship she's in, because she always ends up getting a man that's gone through verbal abuse from a woman.
Wow.
You get women who are very dominant, and they want to rule and they want to reign, and they come down and kind of tear down their male partners. That's verbal abuse.
Wow. Wow. Another thing that I thought I wanted to talk about is very, very important. I was reading where now the average age is 16 to 24. These are young people. And I have a daughter. You know, that worries me. Like, so in dating, what's the sign for a parent to recognize, and for these young people, any young people that may be listening, to recognize that this is unhealthy?
Yeah. One of the statistics is only 33% of teens who are in a violent relationship ever told someone that they're in it. So as a parent, you want to be very sober, and you want to make sure that you know the signs, and you're looking out for when your teen is being constantly put down, when someone is extremely jealous, or they're making them feel insecure, when the person that they're with, they have an explosive temper, or they're making false accusations against that person, or they're constantly telling them what to do, like really trying to be very controlling and very manipulative. Yeah, those are the major signs for teens as well as adults. It doesn't change.
Wow. So what would you say, how does this long term affect children that have seen their mom and dad in abusive relationships?
Unfortunately, more than 15 million children in the United States live in homes where domestic violence has happened at least once. And children who witness this crime, they're victims of emotional, physical, or sexual assaults. Their risk is higher than those who've never seen it before. So it's almost like they're being exposed to it, and some people learn the behavior, and unfortunately, they act upon that when they're older.
Wow.
You mentioned something that clearly trying to identify physical abuse is a lot easier to identify. It's physical. You can see it. Right. But trying to identify some of the other areas of abuse you just mentioned, maybe it's a little difficult to just kind of figure out, all right, somebody says something in the heat of the moment. All right, that was at one time. And then next time you say something else, or they always call you this name, and you guys go back and forth this name calling. How do they tell the difference between that back and forth? Number one, they probably never really had much respect for each other in the beginning.
Right.
But where it continues to escalate to where all they do is name call and go back and forth with each other.
Consistency is a key that you are in a verbally or emotionally abusive relationship. But the thing is, some people don't say anything until it's too late.
Too late, yeah.
So I want people to realize that at the first sign, like, you're not being extra when you tell him, don't ever call me that again.
Right.
And you're not being extra if the second time he calls you that, peace, I'm out. I don't deal with that. That's my boundary. Any relationship after an abusive relationship, you learn, put up boundaries, because I'm not going back there ever again. So people who've never been there, they need to learn to set up boundaries as well. And it's not, oh, he only does that when we argue. Oh, but he's had a hard day at work. Oh, but he's just frustrated because he's unemployed. Oh, well, it's never okay. And that's the message we need to send, especially to our younger kids. It's never okay.
Right. Because I just really believe that it's a lot easier to see physical things than it is to pick up on where it just becomes, like, they grow up, in high schools or whatever, they going back and forth with each other, even with their own peer, girls on girls, boys, whatever. But then once you grow out of that, but then you still have that same type of interaction in an actual relationship.
Right.
I think sometimes where people kind of realize that, wait a minute, maybe that's not how this works.
Right. Do you grow out of that? You have to physically, you have to intentionally change that. I don't think there's any such thing as you grow out of that. You learn that that's unhealthy behavior, and you are proactive. You take the initiative to change that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, great. People texting me saying it's a great discussion. It's germane to a lot of things that's going on in society. But I do have to ask you a question. What about situations you see it with a lot of athletes and people in general, men in general, where externally they're wonderful people. Everybody think they're great, funny people, just super guys, but internally they're total opposite. and they're being physically abusing their spouses or the person in their life, how do you recognize those kind of things and guard against things?
Yeah, that one's a tough one.
Yeah.
I fell into that trap.
Yep.
My ex was a narcissist.
Yep.
So if you know anything about narcissistic behavior, they come on. Some people ask me, how did you not see that?
Right.
How did you not know? How'd you miss that? It's not set up to make you run away. It's set up to draw you in.
Right.
Gotcha.
It's a whole game.
Yes.
So, yeah, they're love bombing. They're charming. They're the life of the party.
Yes.
Everybody loves them. And when you say
Absolutely.
they're crazy,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
him?
Yeah.
He ain't crazy.
How
When
can
you,
that
and when
be?
you find out, you're shocked.
You're shocked.
You're shocked. You're shocked when you
shocked.
find out.
Yes. My
yes.
ex was the life of the party, very extroverted male, could fit in any social circle, but was broken, hurt, abused himself emotionally, verbally, and use all this behavior to mask that. But in the inside, you are who you are until you decide to change.
Wow.
That's good. That's good. If you're tuning in now, you're listening to Tina Brown, and we're talking about domestic violence. So one of my questions as we get ready to wrap up, we talk about, loving someone, and that love, because you want it to work, allows you to make excuses. And so on the outside looking in, we ask, why do people stay? So why do people stay? Why do women stay? Why do men stay?
Women and men stay because, number one, they're in denial. I was in denial. I didn't realize it was domestic violence. I remember I moved, I left, I took my kids. I'm at the pool at my new place. I'm having a great day with my kids, and right immediately he's over my shoulder on the other side of the fence, yelling, screaming, cursing, yelling derogatory things. And I'm anxious, and I call a hotline, and I'm like, I'm not being hit, but this is happening. And she said, ma'am, it's domestic violence. And I said, no, he's not, ma'am, it's domestic violence. So it's not until you first realize this is unhealthy, this is a problem. So people stay because they're in denial. People stay, some women stay because financially, they're being financially abused. He's taking credit cards, he's wrecked your credit, getting this and that. You're married, you have no idea. You're trusting, you're loving, you're forgiving, and you try to get out, you have no means of getting out. So what do? Some people have kids, they think, I'm going to make it work for the kids.
That's right.
You're hurting your kids. I'm going to say that again. You're hurting your kids.
That's right.
Your kids see, your kids hear. Your kids are being affected. What you need to do is get help and get out.
That takes us to, we want to help somebody today. How do they get help?
First realize that the behavior is wrong. Next, don't go through guilt and condemnation and blame yourself. Move forward. Consider getting a restraining order. That's what I had to do. The person that I was in a relationship is now locked up. So I had to get a restraining order to say, these are my boundaries, period, and you can't cross those. Tell someone who's going to listen. Don't tell someone who's going to say, well, girl, as long as you ain't getting hit, if I was you, I'd stay. You driving Range Rovers and Mercedes and your life look good. You forever did. I mean, you just got to learn how to make that work. No. Find someone who's going to listen to you that you can trust. Make an emergency plan. Make a plan on getting out. If you can't just up and leave now, make a plan. Store money. Get a storage unit. Do like I did. Move piece by piece by piece by piece. I'm going to the grocery store, but it's a bag in the trunk. Like piece by piece by piece. You have to take this seriously because this is your life. That's right. This is the lives of your children, your legacy, your future. So you have to take that seriously. And if you need to call somebody, if you're in the Raleigh area, I contacted Interact. I was able to go to Interact, fill out the information. And the bomb thing about Interact is I was able to file a restraining order via webinar with a judge right inside of Interact. I didn't have to go to the court system.
Wow.
That's good.
So right while I was there, she was like, do you want a restraining? Yes, ma'am, I sure do. Where do I
Really?
go? Absolutely.
That's great, because some people are afraid to even face them.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't go to court
Right.
because
Exactly.
they don't want to face
And that is a real fear. That is a real fear. So reach out to Interact. They've done wonders. I always refer people to them. If you're a kid, you can always go to loveisrespect.org. That's an organization for youth that teaches them how to have healthy relationships.
That's really good.
I
Wow.
like that.
This has been amazing.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like
Amazing.
that. So, last question for me. For people that see people that you just say, I know this is wrong. I know something's going on. What can we do? What can somebody else do that you say, I want to help, but I don't want to, I don't want to get in the middle of it. What can somebody else do?
Oh, wow. I love that question. Number one, I'm going to say, don't turn the other cheek. I remember I was leaving, and I didn't have the means to leave, but I was leaving, and he was chasing me around the house and screaming and having a tantrum. And I remember taking my desktop and taking it to the neighbors and knocking on the door saying, can you just keep this until I can come back and get it? The wife said, sure. But the husband came and said, get it out of here. We don't want nothing to do with it.
Really?
So turning your back on people who need help just because you like, I ain't in it, that's their marriage, is not the move. Because I'm a woman of faith, if you see something, first, pray for that person. Pray for them and don't stop praying for them. Let them know that you see what they're going through and let them know that you're there.
Wow.
Awesome.
Great advice. Great advice.
Awesome.
Well, Pam, this was a good one.
This was good.
I mean, it's just so much great information. Tina Moore, thank you for coming in and sharing your story.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure you touched some. I'm pretty sure you have touched some people.
I hope so.
In more ways than one. I'm serious.
Yes,
you have no idea. But
we can talk about this all day.
Exactly, we can.